A very interesting thing from Dennis Dodd at CBS the other day has the Big 12 and Notre Dame partnering on a TV deal with NBC. Really? Well, what does that mean? No, that does not mean that Notre Dame is joining the Big 12. What it means is Notre Dame wants $75 million a year for their TV rights. NBC doesn't want to pay that because they're not going to make that. Well, that's unless they have Big 12 football surrounding Notre Dame football. So Notre Dame kicks at, 3 Eastern. We have a game before that and a game after that. And hey, Notre Dame's got a nighttime kickoff. All right, we have BYU and Oklahoma State leading us off at 1:00, and then Notre Dame kicks off at 5.
You got to be able to keep people.
And I think that's what NBC is trying to figure out here. If you can get the Big 12 and Notre Dame in bed with NBC, I think you're golden, because you've got ESPN and BYU until 2026.
You guys see what he did there? I think you're golden, like the gold helmets on Notre Dame.
I didn't even see I did that there, but man, that was amazing.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
That was pretty good.
And I wear a size 15 shoe.
Yeah.
My point is that I think if you're golden and wow.
Are we clear on that?
And you can partner with NBC and the Big 12 and Notre Dame, it makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
Because all three of those components will make money. It raises the profile of the Big 12, and it still allows them to do a deal with ESPN. It still allows them to have, scheduling, partnerships with other conferences that puts Big 12 football on Fox, on ESPN, on CBS. That's the magic of college football right now. Teams like, Baylor coming out of nowhere to win the Big 12 last year really helps raise the level of the conference, right? So your TV value went up. And this, again, I know we're all probably tired of talking about this as well, but this is, again, why if you are the Big 12, you got to get after that Pac-12 ass now.
Yeah.
Because I think if you can add 6 Pac-12 teams, there's no reason not to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know what you have coming into the conference at BYU, Houston, what you have coming into the conference. What I think you wonder is, okay, now I've got a Florida footprint, a Midwest footprint. I've got a mountain region footprint. I've now got multiple Dallas, Lubbock. I've got Dallas. I've got Houston. We've got a great footprint in Texas. What are you missing? You're missing the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
You're missing Southern California. You've got West Virginia, but you wouldn't mind adding, some more regionality. If you can get Oregon and Washington, if you can get, and again, I know you're tired of hearing me say it, if you can get San Diego State into the Big 12.
Bro, San Diego State, what?
If you can get San Diego State into the Big 12, you've got Texas, you've got Florida.
Yeah.
You've got West Virginia. Why would you not do this? It makes perfect sense in my mind. That's why you've got to get aggressive, because it forces teams like Notre Dame, who, and I think this is a question that has to be asked. What is Notre Dame's brand in college football? I still think it's massive. I think Notre Dame is that one independent team, and BYU, you know all about this. BYU tried to be the independent Notre Dame. That was never going to happen because of the lineage and history that the Golden Domers bring.
Right.
But BYU exposed the game a little bit to understand just how powerful Notre Dame's brand is. Because look at how much success BYU had in independence. Look how much BYU thrived in independence. And I will tell you, I think one of the main reasons you're seeing Notre Dame be courted by just about every conference and just about every TV network is because Notre Dame showed BYU that you can make real money in the open market. And I know that sounds crazy because, hey, Notre Dame is the original independent. Notre Dame got comfortable being Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. And Notre Dame thought people were just going to back up the Brinks truck in South Bend and, dump out bags of cash. Well, it turns out Tom Homo showed you that if you go out and you become one of the best athletic administrators in the world and you negotiate a fantastic TV deal and you go out and you use that TV deal to get great scheduling, that you can actually make a real good living as an independent. And then you heap on top of that Notre Dame's brand, and you heap on top of that their allure, And now you understand why Notre Dame wants a better TV deal than they have now, and they're expecting to make $75 to $100 million on their own.
Yes.
And I think they should, because it's flipping Notre Dame. But I'm telling you, BYU, in the unspoken world of college football, BYU has had a huge impact on this conversation. And I think if you're BYU, you are coming to the table in the Big 12 at a really important point in time, because one of the other things I think you have to ask yourself about the Big 12 and TV deals and Notre Dame, and does the Big 12 survive? Ask yourself that question. Does the Big 12 survive? I don't think that's the slam dunk that everybody thinks it is. What if Oklahoma State gets an itchy crotch and heads to the SEC? What happens then? What if the Big Ten comes and says, hey, you know, Baylor and Oklahoma State, or TCU and Oklahoma State, why don't you guys come join the Big Ten? We need some Southern hospitality. Then what?
This is a code 10 abort.
Well, you never thought about that. I'm telling you that the Big 12 is not as solid as the Big 12 thinks they are. Oh, Rock Nation in that ass. Okay, that's really cool and stuff. And Yorkman's going to be a great commissioner, in my opinion. But I'm telling you now, he'd be a great commissioner if he had a conference. If Oklahoma State leaves the Big 12, and maybe I'm putting far too much value on the great Mr. Mullet at Oklahoma State, if Mike Gundy and the boys pick up and leave, you're in trouble.
Facts.
Because not only is Oklahoma State a really good football program, they also put it in the hoop pretty good too. And I'm telling you, the other thing is the stigma that was Waco, Texas, and Baylor. A lot of that stigma came off those programs with what happened last year. And winning championships in basketball and playing at a very high level in football tends to knock some of the tarnish and the stain off of Baylor athletics.
Well said.
And I'm telling you, Baylor and Oklahoma State, that's a tandem I'd be watching. Nobody talks about TCU. Nobody. Until they leave the Big 12 and they take Oklahoma State with them.
Pack this thing up. We're out of here.
I don't think the Big 12 is as rock solid as people make it out to be. And frankly, I think the only conference that is on rock solid footing continues to be SEC football.
SEC football.
Roll Tide, Anyways, I think the Big 10 has some work to do. I think the Pac-12 is dead. And I think the Big 12 is teetering.
Yeah.
And they've got to strike while the iron's hot. Why? And I don't care that your commissioner doesn't start till August 1st or whatever. You got to get Oregon and Washington and Utah and San Diego State today.
Yeah.
If you're the Big 12. And again, we have not heard nearly the last of what's going to happen in college football realignment. August is a critical month. Because there's a lot of people thinking that, oh, yeah, well, we're just waiting for the Big 12 to get their new commissioner. And when he comes in here, we're Rock Nation in that ass. Look, he put my God, did you see he put Brooklyn Nets in Brooklyn and in that, what do they call that building over there, Jake? The Barclays Center?
Hey, guys.
Yeah, the Barclays Center.
Hey, that's awesome and stuff. But you got work to do on the Big 12, I'm telling you right now. And you had better get going. Because Utah, one of the other things you better remember is Utah's not just sitting here hoping and praying.
No, they're not.
Oh, with all due respect, you can stick your thoughts and prayers up your Ute ass. Because we're out here working. I don't know what I just did. But the point is, Utah's out there looking for a new home. Utah's out there looking for a place that they can secure their future. And the Big 12 is that place.
Yeah, and they'd be smart to pair up with Oregon. I mean, why would you not?
Why wouldn't you?
Why would you not pair up with Oregon and maybe even throw Washington into that mix? I mean, it's you got to up your value to get this deal done.
You know what, man? I'm telling you, don't sit here and wait. Do not sit here and wait, because it is going away.
Bet you weren't expecting this one.
Gabe Ledley says, "My dude,
Hello,
my word."
Yeah.
Good morning, Gabe Ledley. Good to see you, my friend. Tanner Plummer says, BYU thrived in independence. I wouldn't say that, Mont. Okay. Yes, that made it to the Big 12, but they were mediocre for the better part of a decade. Well, but did you think they were just going to step into independence and win national championships? You've got to ramp up your scheduling. You've got to ramp up your recruiting. You've got to get the right coach at the right time with the right staff and the right food and the right weights. And that takes time. How long did it take Utah to win a Pac-12 championship and go to the Rose Bowl?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're not going to – I got news for you, kid. You're not walking into the Big 12 being like, all right, Joey Smith and the boys are here. Time to hand over the trophy.
Congratulations, but that's bullshit.
It's going to be a learning curve. And you're going to have to schedule up, and you're going to have to recruit up, and you're going to have to
even lift.
You're going to have to lift more weights. You're going to have to recruit more players. You're going to have to NIL more players. Going to have to get them eating more Built Bars. You know what I'm saying? Like, there is a lot of work to do. BYU was a phenomenally successful independent program. There is no other way to look at it, and you can sit here and try to spin, well, hey, man, 6-49 in bowl games with teams who played in major conferences and kicked off on the left foot rather the right.
Right.
Okay, cool. They were a phenomenally successful independent program. ESPN put them in places they could never have gone on their own.
Yeah.
And who's responsible for that deal? Sir Tom Homo, that's who. And the guy is, in my opinion, one of the great administrators in the history of college football.
Yep.
And I'm not exaggerating. Doing what he did as an independent for the Cougars. I mean, he got Zach Wilson laid with older women. What more do you need to know about his greatness and stuff? Okay, I'll move on.
Wow.
I'll move on.
Wow.
I mean,
You know.
Eric C. says, Eric C., bro, finally somebody else to defend the honor of San Diego State, the Aztecs!
San Diego.
Whale's vagina.
Dude, Eric, you should have been here yesterday, bro. My guy was sitting over here absolutely slurping San Diego State for you, and you were not here.
That's a can of San Diego State Kool-Aid, baby.
You see, I'm a guy of simple taste.
What I'm telling you, Eric C., if I'm the Pac-12 or the Big 12, I am attacking San Diego State.
Yeah.
I am taking that whale's vagina and I am putting them in my conference.
How the fuck else would you do this job?
I'm telling you that San Diego State, the Aztecs, are incredibly valuable. What
Yes.
they are bringing, and not just as a football program, and obviously they're building a new stadium. Their facilities are fantastic, or going to be. What they bring from croquet, their knitting program. They actually play pretty good baseball. They play really good basketball, and they're pretty good at football.
Yeah.
They have a great market. They bring you Orange County to the Mexican border. I'm telling you, it's a huge swath of land. There's a ton of talented kids who want to play major conference football that would stay in SoCal if they could go to San Diego State. San Diego State is a valuable commodity.
I'm going to do that.
Eric C. says, does BYU still have that running back from last season? Tyler Algier!
That running back from last season, just
a jag.
Yeah.
Just a guy.
Just a guy.
No, he's in the NFL. He's got a bird on his helmet.
Yeah.
Eric in Raleigh says, Fawanan. Okay. I believe you're butt texting. Compass says, bro, I'm so happy I clicked on this show a few days ago because this shows are fire and funny. Subscribed with a big bell. Appreciate you, Compass. Thanks for being here, man. Yeah, saw it, dude. Saw it, dude. Ruff's Official says, Eric in Raleigh, if the Pac-12 expands and partners with the ACC, it could be more profitable for BYU. Okay, let's talk about this, Ruff's Official, because I think this is a big talking point.
Yeah.
BYU's not going to the Pac-12. I think the ACC is dead in the water. I think if you read the tea leaves, I was talking to a media friend of mine who covers Florida State, and he was saying that just about every school in the ACC, including Clemson, can't wait to fold that conference.
Yeah.
Because there's just no money there.
Yeah, but the problem is the deal they signed has them locked into it. I mean, most estimates, and there's not a on-paper figure or any sort of black and white figure, but most people put the number at about $500 million to break that contract. And right now the issue is you're not locked in for 2 years or 5 years or 7 years. You're locked in for the next 13 years or whatever it is till 2036. Like, you're screwed, bro. And I don't know what the path to getting out of the ACC looks like, but I can guarantee you this, somebody will figure it out because realignment is obviously happening, and the ACC is not really a great conference. You've got one team there that really does anything, and obviously that's Clemson. So I don't know, but I think this, what did he say, BYU to the Pac-12? Like, I think that concept just, it doesn't, the Pac-12 is going the wrong direction, and there are two schools of thoughts. One school of thought will tell you, hey, they're going to get aggressive and add teams and sort of reshape their conference, if you will. They'll rebuild it in a sense. Another school of thought says that's not going to happen, and I'm in that kind of camp. I think that the Pac-12 has burned money and not done a TV deal and not done a streaming deal for too many years now, and that's costing you now. So teams are leaving. Teams are going to greener pastures. And I think that's why BYU is going to the Big 12, and that's why I think the Big 12 is going to pursue, again, Utah, Oregon, and Washington. Those are the three, and there may be more, but I think those are the three nameplates that really stir the drink for the Big 12.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the ACC, obviously they have a very close relationship with Notre Dame, and I think that helps them. But when you look at, the ACC, the ACC is a basketball conference. Let's stop screwing around with it.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at Notre Dame basketball, Duke basketball,
Duke
obviously, UNC, North Carolina, Miami's actually sneaky good at basketball, but Virginia Tech, FSU, you have brands in that conference that you'd like to see excel. I mean, obviously, we'll see what happens to Louisville, Virginia Tech. There's a lot of big brands in that conference. I just don't think there's a lot of money to be made because you don't have, in my opinion, the ability to build and execute a huge TV contract.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at the impact that Notre Dame could potentially have on NBC, I think that the dream of adding Notre Dame football to the ACC is dead.
Yeah.
Why would Notre Dame go to the ACC when they could easily join the Big Ten, have regional rivalries, play Michigan every year, and play Ohio State every year? Do you know the TV draw in an Ohio State Notre Dame game every single year?
That would be crazy.
Are you out of your mind? Do you understand right now how many people want Notre Dame and Michigan back on the schedule every single season?
I want them back on the schedule.
It is just such a natural fit.
Are you out of your goddamn mind?
Notre Dame football's not joining the ACC, right? So I look at this idea that you could have a Pac-12 ACC merger, but who's putting that on TV?
Yeah.
Neither conference can get a good TV deal, and I didn't say a great big mega millions, just a good TV deal.
Yes.
Neither one of those institutions, the ACC or the Pac-12, have been able to do that. And now you're losing USC, your nameplate team, in school out of the Pac-12 to the Big Ten. You're not getting better. You're getting worse.
Yep, going the wrong way, man.
And I don't care what it costs. People will figure out how to dump the ACC. It's going to happen. And you've got to figure out, in my mind, and again, this is just my opinion, the Pac-12 has no value.
Yeah.
If you're San Diego State, what's the value of staying in the Pac-12?
Don't you know who I am?
Bring that whale's vagina to frickin' Stillwater, Oklahoma, MF.
Stillwater.
Let's do this thing. Anyway, Eric and Raleigh, who, by the way, knowledgeable ACC guy, Eric and Raleigh. The ACC's only chance to stay relevant is by turning into the Big East, basketball only. That's what you're a far better basketball conference than a football conference.
I feel like a lot of these conferences are scared to take the big leap, to do something like that.
Yes.
I feel like they're just... I feel like the SEC does this sometimes where they'll just go and they'll go and get Texas and Oklahoma and they'll beat you to the punch, and then their commissioner's going to stand up on the stage and tell you they beat you to the punch and they're better than you. That's it's just such a struggle, man. And that's the other thing, the other piece. Even if all this happens, let's say the ACC and the Pac-12 merged and the Big 12 had its thing and everything lined out perfectly. At the end of the day, for us as college football fans and people who cover teams and stuff, what really has changed?
Yeah. And I don't understand how the math adds up here. And again, with all due respect to what Clemson's accomplished in football and Florida State and Miami, you have football brands there. I think what Bronco did at Virginia really helped their program. But when I look at the landscape of college football, if you merge the Pac-12 and the ACC, you're essentially putting together two piles of football crap and hoping that that's going to turn into a diamond.
It's not the best situation, and we all know that.
That's not happening.
Yeah.
All you're doing is making a bigger pile of crap.
Spinal.
And nobody's paying for that.
Yeah.
You know, so it never made sense to me. What makes sense is I think Notre Dame football is its own independent thing. If memory serves, I believe that Notre Dame has, they signed a grant of rights for basketball in the ACC. So they're going to be there for a minute. But Notre Dame football can go and do anything they want because Notre Dame football is independent. They do not have an agreement with the ACC, which I think is a common misconception. Notre Dame is an independent program.
Yeah.
So
and they're good enough to get in the college football playoff, which I think really matters.
Yeah, I think there's so much there. Nicholas Mills says San Diego State to the Big 12 and their run game will run over all that competition.
Well, but I think that's what's attractive about it.
Yeah.
Like San Diego State has the opportunity to go to this new home and just light the world on fire. I mean, they may not win a conference wherever they go, whether that's the Pac or the Big 12, whatever, but they are a valuable commodity. They are a team that brings value. They are a team that people want to watch. They are a team that gives you a good football game, and I think that ultimately is what matters. I mean, how many times are we going to get some random, low-end Big 12 matchup on Fox that nobody gives a damn about, Because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about making money, TV deals and NIL and all this stuff. And to do that, you need good matchups. And right now, I feel like the Big 12 could really benefit from adding some of these teams from that standpoint.
Yep, totally agree. Sorry, I'm being rude and texting while doing the show. But, I think it's one of these things where this is all going to, a month from now, we're having a different conversation about college football.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where this is. Tanner Plummer says, Ruff's official, why the F would BYU go to the Pac-0? They wouldn't. There's no reason to. Kurt Myers says the ACC was so great, Notre Dame would have signed the deal. For football, yeah. I think it's a really good basketball conference. It'll be interesting to see what happens to Duke, being Duke without Coach K.
Duke
you're no
is
longer
Duke, and,
You're Dookie.
Yeah.
Eric and Raleigh says the Pac-12 had a chance to get BYU when they added Utah, and they thumbed their nose at them.
Yes, they did.
So it just is what it is. He also says the Pac-12 can't get lower-level teams and expect to stay relevant. Thank you.
Facts.
Thank you. That's what I'm talking about. Eric and Raleigh says Notre Dame did sign the grant of rights. Oh, so they did. Okay, great. Did sign the grant of rights contract when they moved everything but football to the ACC. Yeah, so they're married there. TJ McVeigh says the Pac-12 can't replace USC with Mountain West teams and compete with the Big 10 and SEC. Utah needs to move to the Big 12.
Yes.
Needs. Today.
But I think that same logic applies to Oregon. I think it applies to Washington. I mean, it applies basically to any brand that is good enough in football to compete for the college football playoff. Like, you have to be, not that the college football playoff defines anything really, but I think that your value is winning football games because winning football games puts you on TV and gets you recruiting, and gets you NIL.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Ultimately, I just think that these teams, they have to move. And I am scared for Utah. I am scared for these
I'm worried
nameplates.
about it. I'm worried about Utah.
Yeah.
I'm worried about the Big 12, frankly, because I think if the Big 12 falters and if they lose another team, I think the Big 12's in real trouble.
But let's say that does happen. So then what? These handful of teams are just going to make a new conference or something? Like,
I think there's a real possibility of that. I mean, there's nothing that would say they can't. I know there's escape clauses in all of these conference contracts that talk about minimum thresholds. And when you have a TV deal being negotiated in the coming years, like right now, you can't afford to lose Oklahoma State. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but if you were to lose any of, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, especially Oklahoma State, Baylor, like I just think you're losing so much booster cash that it's going to be really hard for you to compete.
Yeah.
And I think that the tradition and the quality of athletics at Oklahoma State is a real important fundamental ingredient for the success of the Big 12.
Yeah.
And I think that's why if you're Utah, you have to leverage your success right now because I'm telling you, the Pac-12 this year is going to be bananas. And by all indications, USC and Utah are going to fight for the top of that conference. And I think that's going to be spectacular. But you have to win games right now if you're Utah.
Yeah.
That's why if I am the Utah Utes, I'm getting into the Big 12 today before I ever even kick off fall camp. If that's an option for me, I'm doing that. I am doing that. And if I'm the Big 12, I'm not waiting for my new commissioner to start in 2 weeks. I'm not doing that. right? Like you've got to move now. And I just hope, and I think there is. Harlan is a really good athletic director, really good, who has the support of his administrators. He's doing everything he can do to put Utah in a position to win financially.
Yeah.
And to secure their future as an athletic program. And I think that's what you have to believe on if you're a Utah Ute fan. But, dude, you got to do this now. You cannot wait and hope. You have to do this now, without question. Jeremy Bolton says, LOL, have you seen a San Diego State home game? Bro. There's like 48 fans here. Well, let's wait for their new facility. I mean, they have a beautiful new athletic facility going in.
Dude said there's like 48 fans there.
And actually, Jeremy, don't slander them, okay? There's 57.
This is fucking America.
Man, take your shoes off. Count with your toes. James Knight says, forgive my Australian ignorance. Do winners of each conference playoff? Well, conferences have playoffs, and they have, like, championship games. But you have a college football playoff system that essentially puts conference champions into slotted bowl games. Yes. DJ Lopez, Monty texting on the show. We about to get a Monty bomb instead of a Woj bomb. Look out. No, not really. It's just
that show.
You know, them hoes after that ass. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Them hoes after that ass.
That's a lie. Eric C. says, we have something called NFL teams in California, Jeremy. LOL. College football is cool, though. I can get into it. Wow. Compass says Utah is falling apart a little bit. Zayman says Marshall Falk, baby. One of the greatest running backs in the history of, well, that and Kurt Morrison, Captain Kirk. Are you kidding me? Jeremy Bolton says, and I'm going to say it again, hopefully Utah and the SWAC can come together on some sort of TV deal to show their conference games. Going to be killer rivalry with JSU. Wow.
The SWAC.
Eric and Raleigh got the haterade
I'm telling you, the BYU sentiment is going to be rough if Utah goes to the Mountain West.
It is. Eric explains to James Knight, the college football playoff is basically an invitational. They choose teams that will draw the biggest TV audience.
I want you to listen to me.
It's very corrupt, Eric and Raleigh says. Pretty much.